Before the world wakes up, before the noise begins begging for your attention, there is an hour that does not belong to the weak. 4 in the morning is not a time on the clock. It is a gate. Most people never even see it, because comfort convinces them to sleep through it. But some of you know that hour well. You have felt its silence press against your chest. You have felt the cold air sharpen your thoughts. When you wake at 4, you are not escaping sleep. You are confronting yourself. No applause, no witnesses. Just you and the truth of who you are when nothing is watching. That is why this hour changes people, and that is why it scares them. People who wake at 4 are not chasing productivity trends or copying routines from a screen. Something deeper pulls them from sleep. Psychologically, they are driven by an internal compass, not external pressure. They wake early because their mind refuses to remain buried under distraction. In the stillness of dawn, there is no audience to impress, no chaos to hide behind. The mind becomes honest. Thoughts that were drowned all day rise clearly. Fears speak plainly. Purpose reveals itself without decoration. This is why 4 in the morning feels heavy to most people. It forces reflection. Those who rise at that hour are not stronger by birth, but they have trained themselves to face discomfort without flinching. There is a discipline in waking early that shapes the brain over time. When you rise at 4, you teach your nervous system that comfort does not command you. Each morning becomes a quiet victory, and the mind records it. Confidence grows not from loud motivation, but from private proof. You begin to trust yourself because you have seen what you can do when no one is clapping. Psychologically, this builds self-efficacy. The belief that you can act regardless of mood. That belief spills into everything. Decisions become cleaner. Excuses lose their grip. You stop negotiating with weakness because you already won that argument before sunrise. At 4 in the morning, time feels different. It stretches. Minutes feel earned instead of wasted. This changes how early risers perceive life itself. They stop feeling chased by the day and start walking ahead of it. Anxiety weakens because preparation replaces panic. The mind becomes calm not because life is easy, but because you are ready. Waking at 4 is not about grinding endlessly, it is about alignment. You move before the world pushes you. You act before doubt gathers allies. And slowly, without noise, you become someone who does not need motivation to move, because movement has become your nature. When you wake at 4, you are not starting your day. You are forging your mind. When the mind learns to wake at 4, it also learns something else that most people never master: patience. The early hours do not reward hurry. You cannot rush silence. You cannot force clarity. You sit, you breathe, you move slowly, and the mind follows. Psychologically, this trains delayed gratification at a deep level. You stop craving instant rewards because you have experienced the power of quiet accumulation. 1 focused hour before sunrise feels heavier than 5 distracted hours later. This is why people who wake at 4 often appear calm under pressure. Their nervous system has practiced stillness daily. Chaos no longer shocks them, because they have already met silence face to face. There is also a hidden honesty that comes with this hour. At 4 in the morning, there is nowhere to lie. You cannot pretend to be productive. You cannot hide behind busyness. If you sit with your thoughts, they will tell you exactly where you are weak and where you are wasting time. Many avoid this hour because it exposes self-deception, but those who rise early develop psychological clarity. They begin to separate what matters from what merely makes noise. Goals become simpler, sharper, almost unavoidable. You stop chasing 10 directions and start walking one path with full weight. That is not motivation. That is mental alignment. Waking at 4 also rewires how you relate to effort. Most people associate effort with suffering, but early risers learn a different association. They connect effort with peace. The work done in darkness feels clean, untouched by comparison or pressure. This changes the emotional response to discipline. Instead of resistance, there is quiet acceptance. Instead of dread, there is readiness. Over time, the brain stops fighting routine because routine has proven itself safe and empowering. This is why people who wake early do not rely on willpower forever. Their identity shifts. They no longer ask, "Should I do this?" They simply do it, the same way they breathe. There is a warrior's psychology forming here, though it is never loud. It is the mindset of someone who prepares long before the battle is visible. When you wake at 4, you train yourself to move before urgency arrives. This creates psychological independence. You are no longer controlled by deadlines, emotions, or sudden pressure. You act from principle, not reaction. And when life strikes unexpectedly, you respond instead of freezing. The calm you see in such people is not talent. It is rehearsal. Every early morning is a silent drill, sharpening awareness, strengthening resolve, and reminding the mind that it is capable of more than it believes. Perhaps the most powerful shift happens in how these people view themselves. Waking at 4 builds a quiet respect for your own word. You say you will wake, and you wake. That simple promise, kept daily, repairs self-trust that many have lost. Psychologically, self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Without it, motivation collapses. With it, progress becomes inevitable. You stop needing external validation because you have internal proof. You have seen yourself choose discipline over comfort repeatedly. That knowledge cannot be taken from you. It settles into your posture, your voice, your decisions. The sun finally rises. Those who woke at 4 have already lived a full chapter of their day. Not rushed, not frantic, but deliberate. This creates a sense of ownership over life itself. You no longer feel like a passenger being dragged through hours. You feel like the one holding the reins. That feeling is addictive in the healthiest way. It pulls you back to the early hour again and again, not because it is easy, but because it is honest. And honesty, once tasted, is hard to abandon. Over time, waking at 4 changes how you experience solitude. Most people fear being alone with their thoughts because their thoughts feel untrained, scattered, even hostile. But the early riser learns to sit with that inner noise until it settles. Psychologically, this is exposure therapy for the mind. You face your thoughts daily instead of running from them, and slowly they lose their power to disturb you. What once felt overwhelming becomes familiar terrain. This is why people who wake early often appear emotionally steady. They are not free of fear or doubt. They have simply spent more time with it and learned its patterns. There is also a subtle shift in how pain is interpreted. At 4 in the morning, discomfort arrives immediately. The bed is warm, the body is heavy, the mind whispers reasons to stay. Each time you rise anyway, you teach yourself that discomfort is not danger. This rewires the brain's threat response. Challenges during the day no longer feel catastrophic, they feel manageable. Psychologically, resilience grows not from dramatic hardship, but from repeated small acts of voluntary difficulty. Early waking is one of the purest forms of this. You choose difficulty before life chooses it for you, and that choice builds quiet strength. People who wake at 4 also develop a different relationship with time itself. Time stops feeling like an enemy that is always running out. Instead, it becomes something you shape. This creates a long-term mindset. You stop obsessing over quick wins and start building for endurance. The brain begins prioritizing consistency over intensity. This is why early risers often succeed in areas that require patience, whether it is mastery, fitness, or personal growth. They are not rushing toward an outcome. They are committed to the process. Psychologically, this reduces anxiety and increases satisfaction because progress becomes visible even before results appear. As the habit deepens, ego slowly dissolves. Waking at 4 humbles you daily. Some mornings you feel strong, others you feel weak, but the ritual remains the same. This teaches emotional neutrality. You learn that feelings do not define your capacity to act. You move whether you feel inspired or not. That lesson is rare and powerful. Most people wait for the right mood to begin. Early risers begin regardless, and in doing so they gain control over their inner state. Motivation follows action, not the other way around, and their mind learns this truth firsthand. Eventually, the early hour becomes a mirror. It reflects who you are becoming. When you wake at 4 consistently, you begin to notice subtle changes in your thinking. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You react less, but when you move, it is decisive. Psychologically, this is the result of internal order. The chaos that once spilled outward has been organized inward. You are no longer scattered across many impulses. You are centered. And a centered mind does not need to announce itself. Its presence is felt. There is a freedom that emerges here that few talk about. It is the freedom from rushing, from comparison, from the need to prove. When your day begins in silence, you stop measuring yourself against others. You measure yourself against your own standard. That is the psychology of independence. You are no longer shaped by trends, opinions, or noise. You act from a place of inner authority, and once that authority is established, it does not fade easily. It grows stronger with each quiet morning. The world will never celebrate the discipline of waking at 4. There are no awards for it, no applause, no public recognition, but that is precisely why it works. The mind grows strongest when it is trained in secrecy. What you build in darkness carries a different weight. It cannot be shaken by criticism or distracted by praise. It belongs to you alone, and that ownership changes everything. As this practice continues, something rare begins to form. A sense of inner command. Not control over others, not dominance, but command over self. Waking at 4 teaches the mind that you answer to intention, not impulse. This is a psychological turning point. Most people live reactively, pulled by urges, emotions, and circumstances. The early riser lives proactively. They decide the tone of their day before the world has a chance to interfere. This decision-making muscle strengthens quietly. You begin trusting your judgments because they are made in calm, not chaos. And decisions made in calm carry far fewer regrets. There is also a sharpening of awareness that happens in these hours. The mind, unburdened by constant input, begins to notice patterns it once missed. You start seeing cause and effect more clearly in your own life. You understand why certain habits lead to certain outcomes. Psychologically, this increases self-regulation. You stop repeating mistakes, not because someone warned you, but because you have observed yourself closely. Early mornings become a laboratory of the self. You experiment, adjust, refine. This is how mastery begins, not through force, but through attention. Waking at 4 reshapes your relationship with suffering. Instead of viewing it as something to avoid, you begin to see it as information. The slight pain of waking early, the stiffness, the mental resistance, all teach you something about your limits and how to move past them. This builds what psychologists call psychological flexibility. You stop breaking under stress because you have learned how to bend without losing form. Life's challenges no longer feel personal, they feel procedural. Something to address, not something to fear. As days turn into months, the early riser's sense of identity shifts. You stop asking who you want to become and start acting like that person now. This is because identity follows behavior. Every morning at 4, you cast a vote for the version of yourself that honors discipline and clarity. Over time, the votes add up. You no longer need affirmations or hype. Your routine has already spoken on your behalf. This is a quiet confidence, grounded and unshakable, because it is built on evidence, not hope. There is also a deep respect that grows for energy, not just time. Early risers learn when their mind is sharpest, when their body is most responsive, when silence produces the best work. This leads to efficiency without frenzy. You do less, but what you do matters more. Psychologically, this reduces burnout. You are no longer trying to squeeze meaning out of exhausted hours. You are investing your best energy first, and the returns compound throughout the day. Eventually, people notice something different about you, not because you announce your routine, but because your presence feels anchored. You listen more fully, you speak with intention, you do not rush to fill silence. These are signals of internal discipline. Others may not know why you are this way, but they feel it. Leadership emerges naturally from this state, not because you seek it, but because stability attracts trust, and trust is the foundation of influence. At 4 in the morning, you are not trying to be extraordinary. You are practicing being exact. Exact in thought, exact in movement, exact in commitment. This precision of living sharpens the mind like a blade refined slowly over time. No dramatic strikes, just steady honing. And when the moment comes that requires action, you are ready, not because you prepared for that moment specifically, but because you prepared every day. As this way of living settles deeper, the early hour begins to shape how you understand purpose. Purpose stops being something you search for and becomes something you practice. At 4 in the morning, you are not chasing meaning, you are creating it through action. Psychologically, this grounds you. You stop feeling lost because your days have structure that aligns with your values. Even uncertainty becomes tolerable because you trust your process. You may not know exactly where the path leads, but you know how you walk it. That knowledge calms the mind. Direction is no longer a destination. It is a discipline repeated before sunrise. There is a quiet courage that grows here, different from bravado or confidence spoken aloud. It is the courage to be misunderstood. When you wake at 4, you separate yourself from the rhythm of the crowd. Others may question it, mock it, or dismiss it as extreme, but psychologically, this strengthens individuality. You become comfortable standing alone. Because you have already practiced solitude daily, approval loses its grip. You are guided by internal standards instead of external validation. This is rare and it is powerful because a person who does not need permission is hard to control. Waking at 4 also refines your relationship with failure. When you rise early, you quickly learn that some mornings are harder than others. Some days you stumble. But you also learn that a bad morning does not ruin the practice. This teaches emotional recovery. You stop dramatizing setbacks. Psychologically, resilience is built not by avoiding failure, but by normalizing it. Early risers understand that consistency is not perfection. It is return. Return to the habit, return to the path, return to yourself. This mindset carries into every area of life, making you steady where others collapse. As years pass, the accumulation of these mornings becomes visible in subtle ways. Your reactions slow down. Your choices become simpler. You waste less energy on things that do not move you forward. Psychologically, this is cognitive efficiency. The mind has been trained to prioritize. You are no longer pulled in 10 directions because you have spent countless hours clarifying what matters. This clarity is not loud or dramatic, it is practical. It shows up in how you spend your time, who you allow into your life, and what you refuse to compromise. The early hour also teaches reverence for the ordinary. At 4, there is nothing glamorous, just breath, movement, thought, effort. And yet, over time, you realize that greatness is built exactly here. Psychologically, this dissolves the illusion that success comes from rare moments. You understand that life is shaped by repetition. This realization is freeing. You stop waiting for breakthroughs and start honoring small, correct actions. Confidence grows not because life is perfect, but because you know how to show up regardless. Eventually, waking at 4 is no longer something you do, it is something you are. It shapes your posture toward life itself. You meet challenges early, not late. You prepare before you are forced. You move with intention rather than urgency. This is the psychology of those who rise before the sun. They are not trying to escape the world. They are training themselves to meet it fully, calmly, and without fear. So if you are one of the few who wake at 4, understand this clearly: you are not early, you are ahead. Ahead of excuses, ahead of noise, ahead of the version of yourself that once hesitated. Every morning you rise in darkness, you are casting a silent vote for strength, for clarity, for a life lived on your own terms. You are not chasing success, you are becoming someone success naturally follows. The world may never see those hours, but it will feel their impact in your discipline, your calm, and your resolve. And if you are not there yet, know this: the hour itself is not the power is the choice to rise when comfort says stay, the choice to face yourself honestly, the choice to build before you are forced to fight. That choice is available to you every day, at any hour. But 4 in the morning strips away illusion and leaves only truth. Who you are when no one is watching. Who you are when it is hard. Remember this: destiny is not decided in moments of applause, but in moments of silence. What you do in the dark shapes how you stand in the light. Rise early, move deliberately, and walk forward without asking permission. The sun will eventually rise, but by then, you will already be ready.